with Dr. Habee Bullah Affandy as a Senior Lecturer, Communication Department, Faculty of Business and Communication. And for the topic today is balancing usability and aesthetic design in website development. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Novita and I will host you for today event. Now, let's please welcome our speaker today. Welcome to the Honorable Dr. Habee. And in the next session, we will start with the main presentation. And in the next session, we have time for Q&A session and time for documentation unless time is closing. Okay, let's begin. We will start class presentation delivered by Dr. Habee. The time is yours. Thank you.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes,
Novita, can I know how many people are participating in this?
57.
Okay. Do I need to use 100% English or
Um,
can mix with Indonesian?
Mix is okay. English only is okay.
Okay, all right. Okay, can I start?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. I hope everyone can see my slide here. So I have been asked to give a lecture regarding a specific topic which relates with web design. So before I start with the lecture, I would like to first introduce myself. My name is Dr. Habee. I'm from University Malaysia Perlis. As you can see, my expertise is in the field of web design, especially in terms of usability and aesthetic design. Right? So I believe most of you are here are familiar with the web design process. How do you want to develop a good website? And this is what I'm going to touch on today. All right. So going into the topic for today, we're going to look at two important elements in web design. Right. So when you design a website, biasanya kalau di Indonesia sama ada kita pelajar university or whatever things that we do every day, we are usually deal with website. Sama ada di mobile phone ataupun di komputer kita lah. Right? Jadi, so when it comes to this, it is very important for web designers especially to ensure that the website that they develop or design can really help the users in terms of usability and also user experience. So we cannot simply design a website simply based on our own ideology, right? There is a principle in designing a good website. So if you have a bad website that have a bad design, what will happen is that users or visitors will likely not visit your website. So imagine yourself as a business owner. If you have a business or if you have a personal website, but the design is not good, people will not visit. Okay, people might not use your website, whether to do online business or to communicate with you. So that is why it is very important for web designers to be able to design a good website so that your website is liked by people, so people will use your website, either whether it is in business or whether it is your personal website. Okay, so in designing a good website, there is two important elements, which is usability and aesthetic design. So what is usability? What is aesthetic design? So first we must understand what is usability. Apa itu kebolehgunaan? Right? So usability refers to how easy it is to use a website. Okay. And aesthetic, on the other hand, refers to the layout, the visual aspect of the website. Is it beautiful? Is it nice? Is the design easy to look at? Okay, that is aesthetic. The key question here is, how do you ensure a website have a good usability, but at the same time, it is aesthetically pleasing. It is beautiful at the same time. Okay, most of the website, the problem is it is easy to use, but the website is very boring. The design is not good. Okay, some website, the design is very beautiful. The color is very, very bright. The design is very artistic, but it is very hard to navigate the website. We don't even know where is the home button. We don't know how to go back, go forward, how to register, how to key in information. It's very hard. Okay. Now, the trick here is how do we balance? How do we balance a website to be usable, but at the same time, the website is beautiful? We're going to look at today. Right? So the topic is balancing usability and aesthetic design in website development. So most of you, I believe, are familiar with how we want to develop a website. So in this topic, we're going to look at how do we balance these two elements, right? Okay. Now, like I said before, there are two important dual imperatives here. First, a website must have usability. Okay, it prioritizes function, navigation, and user task completion. So these are the things that we must always consider. Function, meaning the website is functional. Navigation, easy to navigate the content of the website. And also user task completion, meaning the user at the end of the day can complete his task. For example, if you go to a bank website, if you want to transfer money, at the end of the day, you are able to do so, right? So if your website cannot do any of this in a positive manner, meaning your website have a very low usability, right? So the important here is accessibility and efficiency. Okay, so how do we get usability focus? You must have user-centered design approach where we will ensure that the website is based on the needs of the users, intuitive navigation, easy to navigate, and of course, reduce cognitive load. So you don't have to think much when using the website, right? Okay, the second point is aesthetic focus. This is where we focus on the visual aspect of the website, how beautiful it is, how well is the website designed. Okay, so in this one, it emphasizes on few aspects. So as you can see here, some of it emphasizes on the visual appeal, how the website look, the brand identity, especially in term of using colors. For example, for Indonesia, usually the government website will implement some sort of red and white because it represents the Indonesian flag. Okay, and also emotional connection. How good does it feel to use that website? Do it increase stress? Is it very easy to use? Okay, and of course, all these three things is also very important: brand expression, emotional engagement, and visual differentiation. Okay, so basically, what we have to consider as a web designer is these two things. One is usability and one is aesthetic. So again, the question is, if this two is very important, how do you ensure this two is well balanced? Right? Okay. Now, so this is the principle that we as web designers should always prioritize. First, not zero sum. It here refers to usability and aesthetic should complement one another rather than sacrificing one of it. Okay, so you have usability and you have aesthetic. These two elements must complement each other, right? A simple design, a simple design that is easy to use, but at the same time is visually pleasing. It is beautiful enough, right? To attract users, right? So it's also here said synergistic potential. Beautiful interfaces can enhance usability. So it means here that whatever you design in your website must have certain reasons behind it, must have certain element on how it improve usability. For example, the usage of colors. So when you look at this slide, for example, right? I can say this is a simple design, but at the same time, it is pleasing. It is easy to look at because they have an image around here and the content is not as much. And you have a lot of white spaces. White spaces refers to empty spaces. So it is important for a website to have elements like this, especially in terms of white spaces. White spaces will help to reduce eye strain because everything is not so crowded. So it is easier to read the content of the website itself, right? And finally, shared goals. At the end of the day, web designers should serve user satisfaction. Okay, effective design integrates both dimensions seamlessly. So a good web designer should be able to balance the usability aspect and also the aesthetic aspect, right? Okay, going on forwards, these are some of the things that we need to consider when we want to design our website in terms of providing a good usability. So there are several principles that we're going to look at. The first one is clarity. Okay, when user look at your website, immediately they will understand what is the purpose and functionality of the website. Make sure the design of the layout especially eliminate ambiguity in layout and content. So meaning people can see where is the menu, where is the main heading, where is the navigation buttons, where is the registration buttons, things like that, right? And of course, consistency. So as you know, websites have many pages. You have homepage, the next page, a lot of pages, right? So a good website have consistency in terms of the themes of the design. You cannot have a website that have one page red color, second page blue color, third page green color. It cannot be something like that because consistency is very important to portray a consistent design so that it is appealing visually, right? And also it also improve usability, especially in terms of navigation. For example, let's say in your home screen, the menu is on the top of the page. Okay. For example, this is your home screen. The menu is located at the top of the screen, right? And the second page, the menu should also be at the top of the screen. It cannot be anywhere else in the page because this will create consistency in terms of navigation. But if you keep on changing the layout, then the user might be confused. It is very hard to navigate your website, right? And lastly, and third one is efficiency. Minimize steps to complete tasks. For example, let's say you want to use an online banking website, okay? Or you want to go into a e-commerce website where you want to buy something online. I'm sure most of you are familiar on how to buy things online, things like Shopee, Lazada, things like that, right? Now, a good website design reduces the steps in completing your task. Let's say you want to buy things online. Okay, how many steps does it take for you to check out and confirm your purchase? The less it is, the better it is, right? If it takes too much steps, then it is not a good design. Okay, so a good web design should minimize actions in completing tasks, right? Okay, and lastly, feedback. Okay, provide clear signals when action success or fail. Guide users through process with visual cues. For the most simple thing that I'm sure most of you are familiar with is the sign in page. For example, you have one page, enter username, enter password. Okay, if you input the correct information, what will appear? It will appear some sort like a text box that say wrong password, try again. Okay, these are the things that we talk about feedbacks, meaning the design itself help users on what to do. Okay, if it's correct, you say successful, data safe. Those are the kind of elements that improve usability of a website, right? So these are the 4 principles that web designers must consider when designing a good website to prioritize usability, right? Okay. Second is when we want to go and look at the visual aspect of a website. How do you ensure that a good website is well designed visually? In other words, how do you ensure that the website is beautiful? First is the color theory. The usage of colors for a website. It should not be more than 3. That is the ideal standards. Don't use color more than 3. Okay. Now, it says here, strategic use of colors creates hierarchy, evokes emotions, strengthens brand identity. So when you use colors, there are a few things that you can do. Colors creates hierarchy. For example, when you look at this slide, a different color creates the hierarchy of content, including also the sizes. So look at this. This is use black color. This is black color with a smaller font, and use black color with a not a bold font. So you can see this is the main topic, the subtopic, and this is the content. That is how you use colors in your web design, right? Same with also typography. Make sure the fonts that you have selected is easy to read, right? When it is easy to read, users can use the content of your website easily, right? Now, and of course, imagery. I'm sure nowadays there are a lot of artistic typography. For example, this is your normal A, okay? But there are also typography that have design for the A, things like that. But this kind of design is hard to read. So try to use a simple fonts to ensure users can read the content of your website. And the third design element that web designers must consider is imagery. The usage of images, illustrations, icons, visual interests. Okay, now photos that are being used in a website must have a good quality. You prioritize images that have high resolutions, clear images, and images that is interesting and related with the content, right? Okay, so when you look at, I'm going to give you the design aspect or design example that I use for this slide, because the similarity is similar with how we design a website. Look at this slide, okay? I only use colors not more than 3, white, black, and blue for this slide, you can see. Okay, now even the image that I use here is related with the colors that I use in the content. Okay, so it creates a seamless look and a pleasing look. So it is not a high contrast kind of image. So this helps to ease the burden on your eyes and easy for the user to navigate the website. Right, and lastly, it's composition. How do you place the content in a web page? So again, I'm going to use the slide that I used today. You can see a differentiation. On the right side is the image. Even the content is laid out like this. It is well organized. It is not simply just paragraph, paragraph, paragraph. Okay, the composition, especially in terms of the layout, the spacing, and proportion, create visual harmony. It is pleasing to look at when you organize your content very well. So that's why, again, white space is very important. With a lot of white space, you can focus the sight of the users on where to look at. So when you're looking at the slide, you know this is the main topic. Right? The same goes for your web design. Right? Okay, I hope by now everyone can understand the concept of usability and aesthetic, and how do you want to ensure usability on a website, and how do you ensure aesthetic design elements is well designed in a website. Okay, if anyone have question, you can simply ask me, right? Okay, now the next part is regarding integration strategies. Now we have looked at what is usability and what is aesthetic. We have looked at usability and we have looked at aesthetic. Now the question is, how do we balance these two elements? So this is where the integration strategies comes into play. First is in terms of user research. Understand your audience deeply. Identify their needs, preferences, and pain points. So what does the user need? What kind of design is often preferred by the users? Do they want a simple design? They want a design that prioritizes information. That is the thing that you should know, right? The second option, the second strategy is information architecture. This refers to how do you organize your content of the website, right? And then followed by wireframing. Design low fidelity layouts. Focus on structure before visual design. So wireframing is where you illustrate or you draft out the layout of your website. You determine, okay, the menu should be here, right? Pictures should be here. Text should be here. Other footer should be here. Okay, this is a wireframe, meaning we determine this is for what? This is for what element in the website. So, by doing so, we are organizing our content in ensuring that the content of the website can be read by the users easily. Right? And of course, after you have identified the layout, then you start designing the visual aspect. Okay, where you use the right colors, the right fonts, the right images. Okay, and finally, of course, never forget to test the web design. Before launching your website, test it first in terms of usability, in terms of the design. So if you have completed all these 5 strategies, it will help you in balancing out your usability aspect and also your aesthetic aspect. All right? Okay, so how do we design our website? First, discovery. Research your users. If your website is designed for kids, make sure the design is suitable for kids. If your website is designed for business owners, make sure the design is suitable for the business owners in terms of languages, in terms of colors being used, in terms of images being used. That is where you determine at this stage, right? And second one is structure. Create the sitemap of the website. Create the user flow. Organize the content hierarchy and navigation patterns. For example, this is your website. You have a lot of menus, right? If click here, where does it go? If click here, where does it go? Yeah, and the processes, how to buy things from your website. List what are the steps, right? And of course, next is wireframing, where we design the layout of the website before inputting all the visual aspect. And after done with your wireframing, is where you start designing the visual elements of the website, which include the colors being used, the typography, and the imagery, right? Now, this you should also do, which is create high fidelity mockups and prototypes. Before launching your products, it is important to have certain prototype to look at what is the plan design, what are the things that you can improve. Okay, and the next step is, of course, the development itself. When we have planned the structure, when we have planned the organization of the layout, when we have planned the visual design on what types of font, what of type of colors that you're going to do, then you start developing based on the things that you have planned in the previous steps. Okay, and lastly is again testing, and then you launch. When there is no problem, you launch your website. Launching a website means you make your website live. Everyone can now access your website through the internet. So these are the design process that will help web designers in balancing usability aspect and also aesthetic aspect, right? Okay. Nowadays, people usually access websites through mobile phones or mobile devices. Seldom we look at people using PCs to go for websites. Most of them nowadays have even their own apps in accessing all the information. So these are the things that you need to also consider when you want to create website nowadays. You must ensure that you have mobile consideration. Don't design website that is only designed for PC usage ataupun or what we call as desktop design. Okay, because nowadays people are focusing more on mobile technology or mobile platform. So first, your design must also priority mobile first design. How will it appear in a mobile phone? Because this is your PC layout. It is a landscape design. But for a mobile phone, it is more on the portrait side of things. So your design must be suitable to this layout. You cannot use the same layout that you use for desktop to be used in the mobile phone. It will not look good, right? And when you talk about mobile consideration, one of the important thing is touch targets. The things that you're going to touch using your finger. Because nowadays, everything is touch screen. For example, your buttons. Okay, for example, this is your button, home. Make sure this button is large enough to be touched. Right, easy to touch. It cannot be too small. For example, a bad design. This is one button. This is another button. Next, side to side with one another, and the button is too small. If it's something like this, it is not easy to touch. So you have reduced the usability of that particular website. Make sure whatever buttons that you have, it is touch friendly, including all the images and all the buttons in the website, right? And also simplified navigation. How to go forward, how to back. It is simple. Simply by sliding, it is preferable, right? And of course, optimize media. Make sure the images that you are being used is optimized to fit the size of the mobile platform. Okay, make sure the resolution is right. Okay, the resolution used in the mobile web page is not the same with what is used in a desktop layout. It might be smaller in the mobile version compared to a desktop version. Okay, this also includes the usage of videos. Make sure the videos can be used both in portrait mode and also in landscape mode. Okay, so these are the consideration that web designers have to consider when they want to do the website today. You have to design that is suitable for desktop and also design that is suitable for mobile platform, right? Okay, so these are the hierarchy of design needs, meaning what are the things that you must prioritize when designing your website. So when you look at this pyramid, the main thing that you must always prioritize is usability. Because without usability, your website cannot be used by users. Okay, make sure the website is easy to use. If the website is too hard, too complicated to use, then no visitors will go to your website. You will not have the amount of users required. Okay, and the second one is functionality. Make sure it works. Okay, so what does it mean by it works? For example, if you want to buy things, you can buy things. If you want to transfer money, you can transfer money. If you want to watch videos, you can watch videos, right? It functions. It cannot be an error. It cannot be a bug there, right? And the third one, this is where we look at the visual aspect. No matter how beautiful your website is, if this tool is not available, it will be pointless, right? So your aesthetic also must not be too artistic where it sacrifices these two things. No matter how beautiful you are, if this tool is not there, though it is pointless, right? This is where web designers are having issues. Okay. And of course, the next one is emotional connections. Make sure your design, especially when you want to design a website for an institution or a business, it create a memorable experience, especially in terms of the design. For example, when you look at IKEA, I'm sure everyone know what is IKEA, right? So when you look at IKEA, you know the colors already, yellow and blue. You know it's IKEA. It reflects the identity of the company, right? And lastly, delight. This is where, when everything is well designed, you will have a positive user experience. Okay, with a good or positive user experience, people will return or people will keep on using your website or application. Okay, so these are the hierarchy of design needs that web designers should consider, right? Okay, now these are some of the case studies regarding how these web designers for this company have created platforms, whether it is in the form of a website or whether it is a form in an application, they are able to balance out a good design and also good usability. First, we look at Apple. Apple is well known to have minimalism design, but at the same time, even though it is minimalist, it is easy to look at. It is pleasing to look at, and the navigation is simple. Sometimes when you use your iPhone, you just simply swipe back to go to the previous page, and you just swipe up to close the application, right? Another case is Airbnb. Balances beautiful imagery and functional search, right? You can look at Airbnb website. You can see how well they balance out the beautiful images being used to describe each Airbnb and how to search for Airbnb. It's easy to use their website. And you also have Stripe, simplifies complex processes with elegant design. And lastly, you have MailChimp, a website that also is very successful in balancing out usability and aesthetic design. So these four examples, you can look at how they design their website, can be considered as good design, right? Now, based on these four companies, you can see demonstrate that beautiful design and usability can coexist harmoniously, right? Okay. Now, measurement and optimization. Again, how are we going to balance things out? First is, of course, collecting data and then analyze patterns. What elements should be considered when you want to ensure usability and aesthetic preferences of the users? What are the kinds of design that are preferred by the users? This is where we do at this stage. And then make adjustments. Adjustment is very important because design will keep on changing based on trends. So maybe in the next 5 years, the trends is different, right? Maybe in the next 10 years, the design concept is different. That's why when you go to the internet today, you look at design from 10 or 5 years back, it is totally different. 5 years back, maybe you think the design is beautiful. But the next 5 years, maybe when you look back, it is no longer pleasing in terms of visual aspect. So that's why I say design is keep on changing. It's like fashion. Okay. Fashion from 10 years ago, maybe you think it is not suitable to be used today. But back then, you consider that is the most beautiful clothing. Right? Maybe in the next 5 years, or maybe in the next 10 years, what we are wearing now is out of fashion. Okay, that is what web design is similar. Right? Now, okay, I have one question here from Abdul. Is it possible that prioritizing usability too heavily can lead to lack of emotional connection with the user? How do we measure value of emotional impact in a usable interface? Yes. If you are too prioritizing on usability, you most probably likely sacrifice aesthetic. Because if you want to talk about usability 100%, you should not have no design. Only white background, black text. That is the most easy to use. For example, Google, right? Google first started just the word Google and then the search button, right? But even today, you see the evolution from the Google slide. Before this, it's just a text. Now, they even design the Google logo according to certain themes. For example, let's say it is the anniversary of Indonesian independence, for example. Maybe they designed the Google to reflect the event. Right? Now, how do we measure the value of emotional impact in a usable interface? Now, going back to that, this is where we look at the emotional design aspect here. Okay. If you are able to have to create memorable brand experience, that is how you create emotional connection. Imagine or look back, what website that you feel or you have visited that is so easy to use and very helpful, and the next day you want to use it again. You have no problem in repeating using it again. Now that is how you create emotional connection. So how do you create that? By strengthening the user experience. So how do you get user experience? To ensure you have good usability, at the same time, the design is beautiful enough for you to look at it pleasingly. Right? So that I hope answered the questions from Abdul. Okay, another question is from Kinan. How do we critically assess the trade-off between innovation in visual design and the potential risks of confusing and alienating users? Okay, now this is this is a good question. Macam mana how do we ensure, especially in terms of visual aspect, the aesthetic design is not too artistic that it sacrifices this. This is what again. This we're gonna look at this hierarchy. This one. We're gonna look at this hierarchy, right? Now, you can design as artistic as you want, but do not sacrifice these two concepts, right? For example, a rainbow have 7 colors, right? Is there anyone who says a rainbow is not beautiful? Okay, so a rainbow have 7 colors, and it is a beautiful thing, a rainbow, right? But can you still use the 7 colors for one particular page? Imagine this slide is a website page. If I have 7 colors for this page, it will create more problems because let's say every text here have different colors based on the rainbow. What will happen? Of course, it is easy or it is very hard to read the content. A sunrise or a sunset. You know what is sunset, right? A sunset is something that is beautiful. That's why people go and look at sunsets. Okay, matahari terbenam tu. What are the colors? The colors are red, orange, yellow. So if you say a sunset is beautiful, of course the usage of these 3 colors is also beautiful. But that is not the case. Let's say you only use red, orange, yellow in one website, in one page. What do you think will happen? It is very hard to look at the content. It will strain your eyes. Your eyes will be so painful because it is too bright. Okay? Now, this is where, going back to Kinan's question, how do we avoid alienating our users? This is how you do it. Make sure you prioritize functionality and usability first before designing your aesthetic. And your aesthetic design not only just not only make the website beautiful, but it must also improve functionality and usability. So it is a two-way kind of relationship. Aesthetic cannot sacrifice these two, but if there's an aesthetic element, it must support these two elements. Right? So I hope I answer your question, Kinan. Okay. So going forward, these are some of our takeaways for today's lecture. All right. Integrate early. Make sure you consider at the very beginning of the design or development process of a website. Identify first what are the usability aspect that you need and what are the aesthetic aspect that you need. Plan first. Don't simply start developing, right? You must plan first. And of course, testing. Never forget about testing, right? This is where you conduct user tests. Get some inputs from users. What are the design? Is the design suitable or not? What are the things that can be improved? Right? And of course, balance priorities. Going back to the hierarchy again, this is very important. It should not overshadow one another. Aesthetic cannot overshadow usability and functionality. Functionality and usability cannot overshadow aesthetic. Right? Okay. And lastly, collaborate widely. Web designers cannot stay stagnant. They must have a community. Bring together user experience specialists, visual designers, developers. Okay, so if these three kind of people works together, not only will you have a visually pleasing design, a good usability, and also a good user experience. So you will have a good website, right? So collaborate with people from various background, especially in terms of UX, UI, usability, aesthetic design, things like that. Right? So I guess that's it for my lecture. I hope it is not too complicated, but even though it is not too complicated, these are the things that most people or web designers are having problem when developing their website. They don't know how to balance out what is usability and what is aesthetic. All right, I pass it back to Novita. If there are any questions, just let me know. Okay, I have one question here from Paulina. Can we truly design a website that is both maximally usable and aesthetically innovative for all users? Or must we always prioritize specific target audience? The answer to this is no. You cannot design website that is maximally. When I look at the word maximally here, meaning it is 100% aesthetic, 100% usable. No. Why? Because usability, visual, when we talk about visual, it is something that is subjective, right? Because it is visual. To me, it might be beautiful, but to someone else, it might be not, right? Okay, another question here. It says here, again from Paulina, must we prioritize specific target audiences? Yes. Look at your website. What website are you going to develop? If it's for kids, I like to use the example of kids' website. You look at things like Coco Melon, uh, those content that are for kids. The usage of colors is different. It might be using bright colors. Why? Because it wants to attract the attention of the kids. But if you use the same colors for adults, maybe it is not suitable. Right? Okay, the next question is from Mahen. Mahen says, how should we approach design when client preferences for aesthetics conflict with established usability heuristics or accessibility standards? Okay, this is also a good question. Let's say you're a web designer. I think I'm also having this issue when I was developing certain website for certain people. Your clients say they want to use 7 colors of the rainbow. But you know, for a good design, should not be using more than 3 colors. So what should you do? Now, this is where you explain to your clients what will happen if you follow their requests. What are the negative effects? So you have to explain if this is how you want to design, it will reduce the usability of your website. At the end of the day, visitors will not go to your website because your website is not visually pleasing. It creates problems when you want to navigate the website. You see? So for clients, they don't want to listen to your technical explanation. Or you need to have 3 colors. It is not the right principle for aesthetic, but you explain what are the effect that will hit their organization. For example, you say, if this is what you want to do, it will affect your visitors, the amount of visitors, because it creates problems when people read it. Now, when your client hear that, of course, they don't want to have negative effect to their company, right? Now, that is how you convince your clients, right? Okay. So I pass it back to Novita. If there are any more questions, you can just let me know. I hope today's lecture is helpful, especially when you are dealing with web design.
Okay, thank you. I guess no one else asking again, sure. Yeah, before I close this event, for our participant, please open your camera. I will take a picture on the count of three. Okay, one, two, three. Okay, another one. One, two, three. Thank you. Thank you for your again cooperation. Finally, we come to the end of visiting lecture today. We would like to thank you for Dr. Habee for the wonderful information and sharing your knowledge. We hope this information will be beneficial for all participants. At least we hope to have more collaboration in the future with University Malaysia Perlis. The visiting lecture for today and here. We appreciate you soon. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you.